Tonight we're talking about an amazing topic in women's health. And probably the first thing we should do is address the elephant in the room. Yeah, why is a bloke talking about women's health? Right. And so the answer to that is quite simple, actually. I think that women's health is a really underrepresented topic. And we've got some amazing women in chiropractic life, and we've got some amazing CAs in chiropractic life. And they've actually set up a women's health summit down on the Florio Peninsula that's happening on the 23rd of June, I think. Might be making that up. Yeah, in about 6 weeks' time. And basically, the other reason I'm talking about women's health is I've got a diploma in chiropractic neurodevelopmental pediatrics, and I got that around about, I'm going to go 8 years ago, maybe 9. Yeah, it's been a long time. And that's everywhere from a sperm meeting an egg all the way through the lifespan on both sides. And so you have to understand the gestation and all of the women's reproductive stuff to be able to understand how, childhood development works as well, because we need to know how the brain's going to develop and then how the hormonal systems work, in a gestational mother as well. So women's health is a really underrepresented topic as well. Did you know that it takes 7 to 8 years for many women's health problems to be diagnosed correctly and then taken care of? So we're talking things like polycystic ovarian syndrome, endometriosis, uterine fibroids, and there's the kind of the medical runaround, going on. So there we go. I did get it right. 23rd of June. Look at me go. So I want you to picture your health as a journey, a path that you take throughout your entire life. Through all the different phases. And I want you to basically consider that you're driving a four-wheel drive down the road, but some of you like four-wheel driving and you don't stay on the well-worn path of health. You like going four-wheel driving off the beaten track. And if we stay on track, you won't likely experience too many adverse things going on. But when you venture off track too far, we'll see chronic conditions starting to pop up. And this happens in a cycle. And so what happens is we've got our acute stress response. So that's if I go, and you get the high heart rate, and you get the sweating, and you get the, all of those acute stress response. But then we get the sympathetic dominance occurring when we can't sustain that high level of stress in that acute period for a long period of time, because we can't stay that heightened for, let's go with a week or 2 weeks. You can't stay at that level. You actually have to change down gears. We're going to call that a state of sympathetic dominance, which means that you're primed and ready to go into that response at any moment in time. But we've down regulated so that we don't use up all of our energy stores in the right now. And so if we ignore our body's signs and symptoms, right, or the signals that our body's giving us, things may progressively get worse. So who here on the call has ever put a light, that's on the dashboard of the car? They put a cover over it so that they don't have to look at the light on the dashboard of the car, and they just keep driving. Or what if you've got multiple lights on the dash of the car, and you've just got the sticky tape out or the spray paint out, you just cover them up. So this is akin to just basically trying to move through life and not paying attention to your body. We need to know that not everything's preventable. However, many things are within our control. And if we do things to stay on track in terms of managing our diet, managing our exercise, managing the way we think, this is going to make a very big difference. And later on, we're going to talk about how there's some big myths to do with health. So the first one is this: age is the determinant of health. I'm shit because I'm old, which is rubbish. Here's why. If we line up 100 women exactly the same age as you, are they all the same health status as you? What's the answer? No. Because we've got some of them that are doing, Ironman or the Hawaiian Ironman, pretend. And some of them, are already pushing up daisies, right? Because they've already passed away, right? And so there's a spectrum of different health there. The second one is that it's mum and dad's fault. Because did you know that humans have 99.9% the same genetics? All of us. It's just expressed differently. And so this is basically if we've got a hymn sheet, we've got different people reading the hymn sheet. And so therefore it's expressed with different tone. And so, for example, if we had Kylie present this workshop, it would be expressed with a different tone than me presenting it. As an example. So staying on track is around managing your stress and nourishing your body and mind. Your body changes as you age. And so what you expect at one stage, you shouldn't expect to have the same results at a different stage of life. Okay. And so you need to accept that that's going to be the case as we cycle through the different places. But your health is never static. The only time your health is static is when you're dead. And we change throughout life. And what works in one phase may not work in another phase. Our lifestyle needs to be adaptable from the food we eat to the way we move. Our goal should be to support and nourish our bodies as we transition through these different phases and get really curious about our health and embrace those changes and work on our health as a team, right? But I need you to know that you need to be the advocate, right? You need to advocate for your own health. If you're not advocating for your own health, you're in all sorts of serious trouble, yeah? Because the system's not set up for success at the moment. So my next question for you is, are you on track? Here are the different phases: immature, peak, plateau, perimenopause, menopause, and mature. Here are, oh, no, they're not. This is a new slideshow, Kylie. You've tricked me. I've done this workshop a few times, but that's not what the next slide is.
Have I put it in wrong order? It's my bad.
Okay. What we were about to tell you is that there's a few of the most common conditions, yeah, which is painful periods, insulin resistance, diabetes, yeah, and then through to heart attacks. And lots of people think that heart attacks are more common in men, but this is not actually the case. Yeah, so I do remember what's on the slide because I just told you. So health is a spectrum, and it helps us to show that often signs and symptoms appear over time, and they're our body's way of communicating with us. I want you to think of them as body signals. But the problem lies with us if we continually ignore them, if we don't listen to them or change the environment that caused them. And then eventually, yeah, they'll blow out and become something much bigger. So this is when we know that the healthcare system has many different facets that come in handy. Because even if you've been told that you're normal by one health professional, i.e. your GP or the hospital, it doesn't mean that your health is in tip-top shape, right? So symptoms don't lie. Yeah, your body's signaling you for a reason. But the other thing I want you to know is that the body's highly intelligent. And even though we've got the words symptoms and signs here, I actually want you to think of them as the body adapting to give you the best opportunity to be healthy. But I need you to know that it all starts with you, right? Again, you need to advocate for your own health. And if you've been told that your blood works normal or, whatever the test was, but you still feel deep down that there's something that's not quite right, I want you to trust that. I want you to pursue it. And lastly, don't ignore it, okay? Because it's probably correct. It's just not at the diagnosis level. May I have the charger, please? So health is a spectrum. And I need you to consider, are you in an optimal stage? So do you have energy, pain-free movement, mental resilience, regular bowels, strength, fertility, flexibility, and clear skin? Does that sound like you? Or are you moving into dis-ease or dysfunction, where we have PMS, anxiety, headaches, joint pain, painful periods, fatigue, body pain, obesity, poor sleep, depression, endometriosis, acne, autoimmune conditions, polycystic ovarian syndrome, or brain fog? Or have you gone to the next stage after that where we're really starting to hit what we're going to call allostasis? Allostasis means all stopped. Yeah, we've stopped being able to adapt. And so allostasis is when we end up with cancer, heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, and other chronic health conditions. So I want you to, again, think that optimal health, comes about from having an environment that allows for it. Dis-ease or dysfunction occurs when the nervous system shifts the physiology away from normal, and it gives us this adaptive physiology to try and deal with that situation. So what does constant stress do? Stress is one response that can be activated by physical, chemical, and emotional triggers. When the body's out of balance, it triggers our stress response, and that could be as much as just not moving in the same way as you used to. And I'll introduce you to two new words: proprioception. What does pro mean? Right? Pro means positive. Yeah, what about no? Is no positive or negative? No is negative, right? So we're going to go with nociception. And so if you've got a normal range of motion, I'm going to use my finger. I'd normally use my arm to show you, but yeah, I'd have to stand up to do that. So this is normal, finger range of motion, right? That whole range. If I can only go half of the range, the bit that I can do is proprioception, but the rest of this is nociception. And that's negative feedback to the brain. And so I'm going to tell you a quick story about my wife, Amy. No, that's not really my wife's name, right? Yeah, but Amy is the amygdala, right? The amygdala is the emotional center in the brain. And so the amygdala, its job is to help spew out stress hormones, and make you feel a bit down and a bit scared and a bit, not working properly when things are not going your way, right? And when we get nociception fed in, right? So negative information fed into Amy eats chocolate and ice cream and she gets bigger. And you need less negative information, to make her, yeah, not very happy. Now, when Amy's not happy, she whispers to Harry, Paul, and Adam Jr. Harry, Paul, and Adam Jr. are our hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or our stress response. And she says, Dad's a dickhead, right? And that makes the kids play up. Now, generally speaking, Amy's regulated by cerebellum, right? And so the cerebellum is able to help regulate the amygdala and keep a bit of a lid on it. Yeah, when Cordo, who's our father-in-law, is on his game. But if we feed too much negative information in, we will lose our cortical function, or Cordo will just go to the shed and say, I'm not dealing with you women anymore, I'm out. And so that allows Sarah and Amy to conspire. And so when that happens, when the cortex gets knocked out and Sarah and Amy start to conspire, we've got the mother-in-law speaking with the wife, both saying that you're a shit bloke. And then they're both speaking to the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, or Harry, Paul, and Adam Jr., creating a lot of stress. Right? So this is just a quick way, right, and a bit of a story to try and understand the deep neurology that's happening in your brain when your body doesn't move properly, when you're not eating the right foods, when you're emotionally triggered all the time. And so when we remove the physical, chemical, and emotional triggers, our inflammatory burden can reduce and our adrenals can replenish. However, I'm going to got some questions for you. Who here never feels refreshed? Who feels like they have 3:30itis all the time? They feel achy all over, but they haven't done the physical activity to warrant the soreness, or they feel like they have to sleep all the time, or when they wake, they're just still really tired and fatigued, right? This is a sign that your stress response has been high, your adrenals are a bit burnt out. And so I want you to think of your adrenals like the NOS when, on Need for Speed and they hit the button, they go whoosh. Yeah, that's what your adrenals do. And if you've done whoosh too many times, there's no more whoosh. Yeah, have any of you lost your whoosh? Okay. So people with stress disorders are likely to suffer from a few of the following: fatigue, difficulty getting up in the morning, peaks and troughs in your energy, muscle weakness and lethargy, increased inflammation, eczema, psoriasis, brain fog, thyroid dysfunction, dry skin, and metabolic disorders. This is not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the really common ones that happen. Right. And so I want you to think of your body like a major corporation. And what happens is that when we've got to make budget cuts, our body starts to cut out the things that are not essential. So for example, is my gallbladder essential for my survival? And the answer is no, right? I don't need my gallbladder to survive, but I need my gallbladder to thrive. Make sense? And quite commonly, the gallbladder gets tossed out. Yeah. What about my thyroid? Do I need my thyroid to survive? Not technically, but do I need it to thrive? Yes. What about my appendix? Do I need my appendix to survive? Not technically, but to thrive, 100%. And then your spleen is probably the other one that's a little bit on the borderline. And these things get knocked out when we don't have enough in the budget. If that makes sense, the body's just like, right, there's way too much energy going into these things. They got to go, right? And we knock them out. And so this is where the metabolic disorders and the thyroid dysfunction and things like that start to come from. I want to talk to you now about sympathetic dominance, but in women, because it's women's health, we're going to transition the sympathetic dominance to estrogen dominance, okay? And so we're going to tell you a really quick story about estrogen dominance. Do you know that in women's health, you're supposed to have approximately 4 estrogen to every 1 progesterone, right? Approximately. And if you've got lots and lots and lots of stress, we've got to now choose between survival and reproduction. But I'm going to give you a few examples, right? So you have to choose between survival and metabolism. What do you think your body's going to choose? Survive now or metabolize for tomorrow? Survive now, right? What if we have to choose between survival and thymus function, which will be my immune system function? What are we going to choose? We're going to choose survival again, right? What if I have to choose between survival and digestion? What am I going to choose? Survival. What about survival and reproduction again? We're going to choose survival. So coming back to our story, we've got 4 estrogen to 1 progesterone. Did you know that cortisol and adrenaline, our stress hormones, are built with the same building blocks as progesterone? It's not good. And so if we've got lots of stress, will we produce cortisol and adrenaline or progesterone? Cortisol and adrenaline, right? And so that makes us go from 4 to 1 to 8 to 1 and then 12 to 1. And then we have excess estrogen in our system. Now, the body's highly intelligent and it doesn't like it when things are out of balance, because who's heard of homeostasis? Yeah, our body's trying to keep our body in balance. So I'm going to tell you a different story that's going to make it make sense. And I'm going to come back to this one. So I'm going to talk to you about type 2 diabetes really quickly. Yeah, everyone's heard of type 2 diabetes? And what's in excess if someone has type 2 diabetes? What have we got too much of in our body? Sugar, right? And so if we've got too much sugar in our system, right, our body's going to intelligently trying to get rid of it. Hey, Digby. And so, yeah, basically, when we've got too much sugar in our system, our body's going to try and get rid of it. So what's the first symptom of having type 2 diabetes? What do we do lots of? We drink lots of water. Well, because what are we trying to do? We're trying to dilute the sugar. What's the second symptom? Well, because I drank lots of water, I'm going to wee lots. Yeah, and the wee is going to smell. Yeah, because it's really high in glucose. Right, and this is our body, again, trying to get rid of the excess sugar. Right? Are those both intelligent responses of the body? True or true? Yep. Number 3. Yeah, I'm going to store the excess sugar as something different. We're going to call that adipose tissue or fat. Yeah, so we're going to convert the sugar into adipose tissue and store it around my body because I can't have the excess sugar because it's going to massively increase the inflammatory burden on my body. Right? It's going to break it down and kill it. Right? The next thing that happens is we start to lose sensation in our hands and our feet. Right? Peripheral neuropathy. We've heard of that one before. Why would that be an intelligent response of the body? Because everything else has been intelligent so far. Why would peripheral neuropathy be intelligent? Well, number 1, we're trying to send the blood back to the midline, yeah, to survive. But number 2, in caveman times, where did you used to get your sugar from? Fruit, right? Or honey. So if you can't feel your hands and feet, it's very hard to climb the apple tree to get the apple. Yeah. So we can't use our hands and feet to climb as well, right? If we're overweight, it's harder to climb the tree as well. And then the last thing we lose is our sight. Because if you can't see the apple, you can't get the apple either. Okay, and so all of these things are, yeah, and it might be a little bit of, longer straw to draw there, but these are all the body trying to slow us down so that we can't get the sugar anymore, right? In simple, the body is trying to adapt to cope with the environment that we've given it. So let's come back to estrogen. Now we've got too much estrogen in the body. And I want you to imagine that it's the same situation as with the sugar. The body's going to want to get rid of the excess estrogen. Does that make sense? It's trying to level it out. So what are some ways that we might get rid of the excess estrogen? So did you know that when you've got lots of estrogen in your body, yeah, it actually decreases the threshold for feeling pain. Yeah, and so therefore you'll feel, really hypersensitive. It might be a little bit like fibromyalgia if you've heard of that before. All right, that's number 1. Number 2, did you know that your endometrial lining is made from estrogen? So if we've got excess estrogen, we might make extra endometrial lining, and then we might bleed more often. So that might be more painful or heavy periods. It might be irregular period cycles, so it goes for 2 weeks instead of 1 week. It might end up with mid-cycle spotting. Yeah, does that make sense? What happens if we've got lots and lots and lots of endometrial lining being made, and we don't just put it in the uterus? What do we call that? Endometriosis, right? And so that was when we've got way too much endometrial lining being made by the body. But why does the body do that? Because that's not normal function, right? And not everyone with endometriosis always had endometriosis, did they? No. So why did that come about? Has to be the question. Why did the body change to do that? What about the next one? We're going to talk about uterine fibroids. I want you to pretend I've spilled water all over the floor. We're going to call that water estrogen. And I've got to mop it up with a big sponge. Yeah, what do you think a fibroid is? It's a big sponge that's going to soak up the excess estrogen. And what about polycystic ovarian syndrome? Yeah, or infertility due to anovulatory cycles. How do they come about? Did you know that every 28 days you release an egg? Yeah, if you're a lady, generally speaking, right? Yeah, one on this side, then on this side, then on this side, then on this side. Now, when that egg gets released down the fallopian tube and it goes into the uterus, right? If it's fertilized, we want it to embed in the uterine wall, right? In the uterus wall, okay? And into the endometrial lining. I did say the right word. Anyway, we want it to embed there. And we require progesterone to do that. And we require progesterone to hold on to the pregnancy. And if we've got 8-to-1 or 12-to-1 estrogen to progesterone, we're not going to be able to hold on to that pregnancy. Does that make sense? And so this is one of the major causes of infertility, is not being able to hold on to the egg. And then the other thing is an anovulatory cycle, which means that we don't get the egg actually released. Because did you know that you also need the progesterone to release the egg from the ovary in the first place? So I want you to pretend that we've got the egg, and it's all ready to go, right? But the train never leaves the station, right? And then we get the next 28 days and it doesn't get released from this side. And the next 28 days, it doesn't get released from this side. The next 28 days, and you get over and over and over again, it doesn't get released. So that would be a bunch of eggs that are still there in that spot, unreleased. What are we going to call that? We're going to call that lots of cysts, ovarian syndrome. Lots of eggs that didn't get released, right? Everyone, yeah, is that making sense for everyone? Because we didn't have enough progesterone to do it. So these symptoms can all be linked with sympathetic dominance, having stress way too high. And so lots of people think that they're not under stress. But I want to kind of like turn this around. I want you to think if you put a novice in your position. Someone who didn't know how to do your job. How would they cope? Let's pretend we put a 16-year-old in your position. They'd be like, oh my God, what am I doing? Right? So this means that you're under pressure. You might not perceive it as stress because you've learned to adapt and cope with it. But it still means it's stress in this thing. And so Hans Seiles won a Nobel Prize for what was called general adaptation syndrome or general adaptive potential. You have an amount that you can adapt before you can't anymore. And so you might be able to cope with your significant workload, with the 3 kids, with the, all of those things. But at a certain point, a little thing might tip you over the edge, if that makes sense, because you've been coping with all of that other stuff, so much for so long. So stress response increases cortisol, catecholamines, and heart rate. It increases blood pressure. It increases blood lipids, insulin resistance, and blood glucose. What does that sound like? Sounds like diabetes to me. Did you know that you can be as skinny as me and end up with type 2 diabetes? Because the stress shuts down the pancreas and it doesn't produce the insulin like it used to. Respiration rate increases and then bone loss increases. Now, here's a bit of a fun one. What's a condition that lots of women get that has to do with bone loss? Osteoporosis. Well done. Osteopenia. Now, did grandma kind of get weak bones kind of out of nowhere, or did they happen slowly over time? Generally speaking, what is the answer? Slowly over time. And so was it just a random condition that sort of popped up out of nowhere? Or is there a physiological process that slowly stripped the calcium, magnesium, and potassium out of her bones? And the trabeculae. What do you reckon? I reckon it probably slowly stripped it out. So what do we need magnesium, calcium, and potassium for? Maybe active transport of hormones into and out of cells. Maybe creating cortisol and adrenaline. And so if we've got chronic stress, what are we going to do? Are we going to have strong bones for tomorrow or surviving now? What do you reckon? Surviving now. And so grandma, right, she's got 5 kids and 27 grandkids, and she's running around after pa, Do you reckon she might have had a little bit of stress in her lifetime? What do you reckon? I reckon there's a fair old chance. The grandma's got weak bones because she's still running a million miles an hour. My gran had a fall the other day. She's 89. She still cuts hair at 5:30 every morning. She is an absolute weapon. She started her hairdressing apprenticeship when she was 13. She's still cutting hair at 89 years of age. Just for fun. So decreases, in the stress response. Digestion, we've already talked about. Metabolism goes down. Did you know that if you've got estrogen dominance, your estrogen actually shuts down your thyroid? Right? And so we actually didn't talk about this one earlier, but let's talk about thyroid function. Let's say that this side is hyper, thyroidism. We're going to call it Graves' disease. And let's call this side hypo or Hashimoto's. I'm going to put my arms out like this. I probably should move the computer away so you can see. But we're going to put my arms out like this. Did you know that this midline here, this is normal? But if you test here, there's nothing wrong with you. You test here, there's nothing wrong with you. You test here, there's nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you, nothing wrong with you, until you meet the threshold for the label. Is that stupid or stupid? We only deal with it once we get to the, to get over the threshold. We get the label and the drugs and the surgery and the whole box and dice. What about here or here or here or here? Why didn't we do something about it here instead of when we got to here? Is that crazy or crazy? Or is that just me? I think it's crazy. Because we're looking at it as pathology. We're not looking at it as the body intelligently trying to change things. And we're not actually asking the right questions, right? The answers you get are based upon the questions you ask. And so we need to ask the question, was the body adapting to a chronically less than ideal environment? And the answer would be yes. If your dog gets sick, what does the vet ask you? What did you feed the dog? What's stressing the dog out? Does that make sense? He doesn't say, what are the symptoms? Here's the script. That's not what the vet does. He tries to work out what's in the environment is not working well for the dog. What about when the kids go to the vet? No, when the kids go to the GP. Yeah? Do they ask about the kid's environment? What about you? Do they ask about your environment, or they just say, what are the symptoms? Here's the script. Okay. So what about serotonin? Did you know serotonin and dopamine? Did you know that 90% of your serotonin and dopamine is produced below my hands? Yeah, in your gut and your kidneys. Did you know that? Wow. I thought mental health disorders were mental health disorders, not, or was it gut? Oh, vagus nerve. We probably should do a workshop on that, Kylie. And so, yeah, short-term memory goes, right? So I'm going to tell you another story, right? Who's heard of a guy called Atlas? He was a bloke in Greek mythology who had the world on his shoulders. Yeah, so the world on his shoulders might mean that you've got a high level of stress, right? And so if Atlas, the top vertebra, right? If we're normal and happy, because it's like a hoop, right? If we're normal and happy, it'll sit on a 45-degree angle, or 30 to 45. Yeah. Under stress, guess what happens? Goes horizontal, right? Because the suboccipital muscles are getting all in spasm and it's pulling it up towards the base of the skull, right? But what's important? What goes through the atlas? The vertebral arteries. Did you know that if atlas changes angle like that, it can reduce blood flow to the brain by up to 80%? So let's tell you another quick story. If my thumb is my brainstem, yeah, this next bit is the limbic system and the top bit is the neocortex, right? This is survival response. This is emotion. And then this, yeah, this here is cognitive thinking. If we're under stress, right, are we going to knock out the, yeah, good thinking first or survival response or emotion? Thinking, right? We stop thinking properly, right? Then we've got to choose between our emotions and survival. What are we going to choose? Well, the emotions are out the window next. So if we don't have enough blood flow to the brain, we're going to stop sending it to the neocortex first. We're going to keep doing the emotion and we're going to keep doing the brainstem stuff. Does that make sense? And this is why your short-term memory goes, yeah, out the window. Yeah. None of you ever lose your phone or your keys, do you? I'm sure. Yeah. You've never lost a thing in your life. Right. Growth hormones out the window. Hormone balances we already spoke about. Cellular immunity we spoke about as well with the thyroid, thymus gland. Concentration, yeah, that ties in with the lack of blood flow to the brain. And then testosterone. Testosterone is a bit of a misnomer here. Testosterone goes down in men. Which way does it go in women? So if you've seen a lady with a moustache or a beard like me, you'll know what she's been up to. She's been stressed. So on reflection, yeah, if we reflect on your current lifestyle and how you feel within your body right now, I want you to ask yourself, are you on track? Or is there something that's just under the surface that doesn't feel right? This could be the first sign that you've taken a wrong turn somewhere. The good news is it's never too late to make changes. Our body is adaptable, particularly when we're consistent. So, body signals. What is your body trying to tell you? You know, I've always been one to think about this when it comes to physical symptoms. Yeah, like headaches, pain, skin rashes, acne, and sleep. But it wasn't until recently I started seeing my emotions as a symptom too. Yeah, and so a really cool recommendation for a book is Candace Pert, Molecules of Emotion. I reckon you should all, check that one out. So often when we feel those unwanted feelings like anger, sadness, guilt, or shame, we avoid them. This is basically the same as covering up your physical symptoms, right? So taking a Panadol and hoping it'll all just go away. Yeah, is that likely? No, because we didn't actually change the cause. So emotions are neither good nor bad, and they're just a way of our body trying to communicate with us. For instance, when we experience anger, this means a boundary is being crossed. When we understand anger in this way, it becomes our best friend instead of something that we're trying to avoid. Repressed anger can show up in the body as chronic jaw pain, grinding at night, or liver issues. So the next time you experience a physical symptom or emotion, take a moment to ask yourself, what's my body trying to tell me? Headaches, right? That's the next one we're going to talk about. So when you're wound up, busy and stressed or unable to relax, your brain thinks it's time for fight or flight. During these times, some of the neurons in your brain let more light and noise in. Okay, we're going to talk about this more a little later, right? But basically, when you're in the fight, yeah, do you feel the biff? or is it when it all slows down? What do you think the answer is? When it all slows down. So when you finish the day's work, it's like bang. Yeah, headache on. The next one is diet, right? And I want you to think of all of the things that, yeah, generally speaking, trigger a migraine, right? Dairy, cheese specifically, right? Caffeine, alcohol, yeah, sugar. What are all of these got in common? They all are majorly inflammatory, number one. And then number two, they all give your adrenals an absolute pasting, right? And so, yeah, that's what I need you to think about when you think migraine. So as soon as we feel stressed, we go for the sugar and our adrenal glands will need to respond. But sometimes we don't have any NOS left. Yeah, we go to push the button and yeah, we've lost the whoosh, right? If we're under that much stress, our body wants us to get out of the stressful situation. So it wants to send us to the cave, right? To sleep it off, to get out of the stressful situation. Does that make sense? And so a migraine is a great way to keep you in the cave. Yeah? Because I'm not sure if you've ever had a migraine, but if you're in a migraine, you want to get into a place that's just like a cave. Yeah? Dark room, no light. Yeah? And somewhere that you feel safe and warm and secure. So basically stress becomes a long-term, yeah, when the adrenals have run out of puff and they're unable to mop up, yeah, in our body. Sympathetic dominance headache, right? This is when we've been going for too long. Kylie's been at the computer for too long here, doing all the marketing stuff. And what's happened is we've just lost it. Yeah, the body's just given up. And so then we're going to put more stress and tension on the spinal cord and the rest of the nervous system on the way down. And so this postural fatigue is going to then wind up our brainstem further. So when you get this flexing forward happening, it's actually firing of what's called the red nucleus. And so the red nucleus, yeah, its job is to fire up the flexor muscles of the body so I can fight or protect myself up the top. And then down the bottom, it's actually on the back side of my body. It's my hamstrings and my calves. And so they fire up so that I can run away from the tiger. So anyone who's got chronic restless legs or cramping in the legs at night, guess what they are? Chronically what? Stressed would be the right answer. Okay. So the sympathetic dominance headache gives you a bunch of random symptoms as well. Yeah. So you might have a bit of this, and a bit of that, and a bit of this, and a bit of that. Why is that? Because if you've got one light on the dashboard of your car, Kylie will keep driving. If she's got lots of lights on the dashboard of the car, she says, Ralphie, I need you to take the car to the mechanic. Yeah. Because there's too much going on. Right? It's harder to ignore lots of little things that are coming up all the time. You start to scratch your head and wonder if there's something really serious happening. So what are your nails trying to tell you? Okay. So I'm going to give you three different versions. Number one, zinc. If you got low zinc, you get white spots. Number two, if you have low B6 or B12, you'll get vertical ridges. Yeah, in your nails. So everyone have a look at your nails. If you got horizontal ridges, we're talking low selenium or silica, right? So, yeah, you know when you chop a tree down and you look at the rings? Yeah, there's all the different rings and it tells us if there's been a drought or a flood does that make sense? Well, your nails and your hair are just like that for the human body. And so if somebody's been taking drugs and they do a hair sample, they can tell, when it happened and all that stuff based upon the hair, right? Your hair tells us how stressed you've been as well. So, if you've got low B6 or B12, you might have ADD, ADHD tendencies. Yeah, they probably need to test me for that. Yeah, so just to see, how fast I'm talking right now. We need to slow down. Right, so so an example, right? White spots mean low zinc. Right, so it's all fun and games until it slows down. Now, I need you to know that Kylie makes these slides, not me, and I didn't make the next slide, so don't hurt me, okay, when you see me next time, right? So who feels like this compared to how they used to look? I say that every time I do the workshop too, Kylie. There's a lot of women that are out for you. And you try so hard with walks and gyms and runs and a million different diets and very little, if anything, really noticeable changes, right? Here's why. When I say metabolism, you think weight. But wait, your metabolism is much more than just your weight. Did you know that you're made up of 300 trillion single cells? And every one of those cells needs to do metabolism to create energy so it can do its job properly. And a group of cells makes a tissue, a group of tissues makes an organ, a group of organ makes a body, a group of bodies makes our community. And so basically, I need you to think that every cell requires metabolism. So when you are going to do a fitness challenge, don't do it with a male partner or someone that's a different age than you. Okay, because for example, I have around 30 to 40% more muscle mass than you. So if you do, the fitness challenge with me, it's probably not going to work out that well because I'm going to burn stuff faster. Does that make sense? Right? And then the second thing is, right, you're basically going to say to yourself, what the hell? I'm starving myself and I'm doing all this extra work and he's getting all the gains and I'm not. Right? This is bullshit. Yeah. The reason why this happens is threefold. Popular diet and exercise culture is based upon male participants and women who are postmenopausal. Eye roll. Right? So next one is this. I want you to consider this, right? We're going to talk about inductive and deductive reasoning really quickly. I'm going to do a bit of a tangent here, but anyway, inductive reasoning is what the medical system use, right? So ready for this? If Kylie, we did all the testing on Kylie and we got this result, we know that this is the randomized control trial and this is our result. And so then we say, right, well, we know that this is the result and that's evidence and we're now going to apply that to everyone because inductive reasoning is we know a fact and we go from specific to general. And then we're going to apply it to every other woman that listens to this workshop. Is that sensible? Righto. Deductive reasoning is the opposite, and that's what chiropractors do, because we don't have as much evidence, that is, to be able to use inductive. So this is knowing truths, so let's go with this. We know that the brain runs and regulates and coordinates everything in the body. Is everyone happy with that? Right, so that's a general fact statement. The second fact statement we're going to go is this. If I sever my spinal cord here, nothing below that point works. Is everyone cool with that too? Awesome. So we know these two facts. Now we're able to assume a third. Therefore, if we don't sever it, but we just interfere with it here, right? So we interfere with the spinal cord flow, it's going to affect the things that are past that point. Does that make sense? That's called deductive reasoning, right? It's logical, it's sensible, it's reasonable. Yeah. And so that's going from general to more specific. Righto. The second one is that the reason that this happens when we're thinking about weight is that woman's hormones fluctuate across the month. And what works in the first 2 weeks won't necessarily work in the second 2 weeks. And you might be doing a whole bunch of hard work and get no rewards. The third thing is that things like pregnancy and hormonal contraceptives, and it says can, but it should say do, deplete our micronutrients. Yeah. So we need our micronutrients like sodium, potassium, calcium, magnesium in order to transport hormones, to our cells to help with our metabolism. So who remembers those things? Who remembers me talking about grandma before? Things are starting to link up. And oftentimes we'll have issue with our thyroid and our liver. Excuse me. Didn't mean that to happen. And our insulin levels, off the back of that. And then we're going to get to talk to you about your gallbladder in a minute. Give you a real hard time. So signs of metabolism is slow. You don't feel hungry in the morning. You often skip breakfast. You always feel cold and have cold hands and feet, stubborn weight gain, hypothyroidism or insulin issues, constipation, heavy cycles, and fatigue and difficulty waking up in the morning. And you're still feeling really tired. So what do? Eating less doesn't help. Did you know that most people who want to lose weight are actually chronically deficient, not toxic? Here's why. All right, I'm going to tell you a story. I want you to pretend I'm going to build this amazing house here. All right. And I need the gyprock and I need the wood and the iron and the tiles for the floor. Right. I need all and they're all the big bits. Right. And I've got all of those delivered, but I don't have any screws and I don't have any nails. Bugger. Right. We're going to call those the micronutrients. So what have I got to do with the macronutrients? The tin, we're going to call that protein. The gyprock, we're going to call that carbohydrate. And we're going to call the insulation the fat. What are we going to do with all of those things that we've eaten? We're going to store them for later until we've got the micros. The nails and the screws. Because we can't do anything with the macros if we don't have the micros to do it with. Does that make sense for everyone? You're going to store the macros until you've got enough micros, to be able to do the metabolism properly. So lots and lots and lots of women are chronically deficient in the micronutrients they need to be able to do everything properly. Right? Not just women, men as well, but it's Women's Health Workshop. So eating less doesn't help. Ingesting that micronutrients, to let your body know that it has access to food and it can feel calm. Eating within 1 hour of waking, eating every 3 to 4 hours, having high quality carbs if you have to have them, Yeah, and have them with protein to help balance out your blood sugars and making sure that we're getting those micronutrients. Kylie will send you through a daily recipe drink, yeah, for tomorrow. Yeah, it says that on the slide. So perfect. So when is pain okay and when is it not? So pain tells us many things, okay? But here's what I need you to know. Pain is our body's response to tell us that there's something wrong. Yeah, it is a good thing. Because if I put my hand on a hot plate, I want it to hurt. I want it to tell me to take my hand away because otherwise I'm in all sorts of strife. However, when we're experiencing it consistently, it can become something called allodynia and it becomes a really, really nasty thing. Okay? This is your body, yeah, becoming used to and neuroplastically wiring in the pain response. So here's some reminders of pains that are not normal. Pain during sex is not normal. Chronic pelvic pain is not normal. Period pain that puts you in bed rest is not normal. Actually, technically, no period pain is normal. Don't hurt me when I say that. Yeah, they actually did study on hunter-gatherer populations, yeah, all around the world, all different places, and guess how much period pain they had? No. Yeah, it just means the body's out of balance. Back pain's not normal. Headaches are not normal. Vomiting with your period is not normal. Remember, if you don't stop and listen to your body when she starts talking to you, she'll end up having to shout at you and scream at you, yeah, to get your attention. So inflammation is a sign that your immune system is being overly activated. And so basically when your sympathetic nervous system is chronically activated, we have homocysteine come into the bloodstream. But a lack of vitamin B6 and B12 affect our body to lower the homocysteine levels, right? So that we talked about those with the nails before, remember? And so if we've got low B6 and B12, we're going to keep the homocysteine high, which means you're going to be chronically inflamed. These levels have been linked to increased risk of cardiovascular events and also recently Alzheimer's, which we're going to call type 3 diabetes. It means the body is chronically inflamed. Yeah, and when the body's chronically inflamed, it's going to try and protect itself. And so Alzheimer's, yeah, we might end up putting tau plaques or amyloid plaques in the brain, yeah, to try and cover it up to protect it. But then it also shorts the circuits, right? So it's not going to work so well. So it's important to make sure that we're getting enough vitamins and minerals, yeah, and micronutrients to make sure it's working properly. So why you might be deficient? I want you to think more than just diet. I want you to think gut function and underlying liver processing issues like polyuria, right? Because hands up if you've had antibiotics. Pretty much everyone. If you've had antibiotics for an infection, it increases the incidence of a repeat infection by 63%. Because it's like throwing a grenade into your guts. Yeah, and it kills everything. Right? Then, if you put for example, the person back in the same environment where they got the original infection, what's the chances that you're going to get another infection? 63% higher. So if they get another infection, what's the next version of medical treatment for the second infection? More antibiotics. Did you know that if you have 2 lots of antibiotics in any given year, it increases the incidence of anxiety attacks by 44% and major depression by 52%? Yeah, if you want to look up those stats, look up Zach Bush, MD. Crazy. Skin health. Wrinkly finger pads can mean that you're dehydrated. Stretch marks may indicate that you're low in zinc. Rashes or eczema can be a sign of poor gut health or an imbalance. Weak skin may indicate a hormonal imbalance like low estrogen. Bruising easily can mean that you're anemic or clumsy, or both. So, self-talk. Did you know that 87% of your internal self-talk, ladies, is negative? I'm to pick the thing. Fat, lazy, ugly, whatever. Yeah, stop it. So I need you to think of that instead of this. So are you guilty? Do you say this? I need to exercise to burn off what I've eaten today. Or who's doing a little bit better and saying, I get to exercise to feel stronger and healthier. Who's guilty of this? Yeah, you need to do better. Right. So I've already eaten too much today. I'll just wait for dinner today. Regardless of what I've already eaten, my body deserves to be nourished consistently. Who's guilty of this instead of that? What about this? I feel so lazy. I haven't gotten anything productive done today. Rest is productive and I deserve to rest. Who's guilty of this instead of that? Pretty much everyone. So you're not controlled by your genes. You're controlled by your beliefs. Change your thoughts and change your genes. So if you do not know of Bruce Lipton and epigenetics, I would love you to write down Bruce Lipton epigenetics. I would love you to read The Biology of Belief. That's his book. Or there's a 2.5-hour lecture on YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. Basically, the whole genetics controlling health situation has been disproven no short of 24 times over a bunch of decades. Have they changed the medical system? From the gene control the health model. Why not? Would be the correct answer. Right? Watch this. Watch that lecture. And please watch that lecture. Anyway. Posture. Sit up straight or you get a hunchback. Said every mother and grandmother ever. So we're talking about firing of the red nucleus again. Again, it's bringing us forward. Did you know that even the blue light coming out of the screen that you're watching right now, is drawing you forward? It's pulling you into that further hunched posture, and it's driving the stress response forward. So these postural problems, the rounded shoulders, the forward head carriage, they cause you to be tense and wound up, but they also reduce your ability to get your air in, vital capacity, which will put you into a further stress response, which will just drive the cycle forwards. So basically, sit up straight, puff your chest out, and make sure you can get the oxygen in. We want to be doing everything we can to make that posture better. So, ladies, is your body whispering to you? Is she talking to you? Or is she shouting at you? No, I was going to shout, but I wasn't. Right? Is she shouting at you? Don't ignore the warning signs. We've talked about adrenal fatigue. We've talked about thyroid dysfunction and how estrogen knocks it out. We talked about estrogen and progesterone ratio disturbances. Leaky gut happens when we throw the hand grenades in there, the antibiotics, but it also happens when we're under chronic stress and the gap cell junctions increase and it releases bigger amounts of things out into the bloodstream, which causes chronic inflammation. Shoulder and neck tightness comes from firing of the red nucleus because everything's falling forward. But here's the next one that's a bit of fun. Sensitivity to light and noise. So let's go with the noise first. Who hates that person who clicks their pen and you just want to stab them with their own pen? Or the ticking of the fan? Or, worst of all, your husband's heavy breathing at night and you just want to get the pillow and gently hold it over his head for a good 10 minutes. Right? That's number one. Or number two, light. Who has a little light on their TV or their air conditioner that's in their room and it drives them up the wall? That little goddamn light, and you just want to smash it. Or put a light, or cover it up with a sticky dot. Right? So the noise was that inferior colliculus, being filled up with too much stuff, which is a part of the brainstem that's just next to the cerebellum. It was filled with too much stuff and we only need a little bit more stimulation for it to tip over and to get the stress response. The sensitivity to light was the superior colliculus doing the same thing. Headaches and migraines we already kind of covered. That ties in with the red nucleus firing and the firing of what's called the trigeminocervical nucleus, again in the brainstem. Brain fog is not enough blood flow to the brain. Same with light sleep and vivid dreams. Anxiety and depression and digestive upsets, bloating, diarrhea and constipation tie in with the leaky gut thing. Increased inflammation and risk of stroke and heart attack. We've spoken about those. We're talking about the higher levels of homocysteine and the chronic immune system dysfunction. Right? Inflammation, same thing. Gallbladder disturbances. Don't hurt me again, but I'll tell you, right? We're going to talk about the 7 Fs. So if you've got the 7 Fs, you're in all sorts. Ready? Female, 40 to 50, fair, flatulent, fat, fertile, and fucking stressed. And I'm not supposed to say that while we're recording, but we're going to because it's an F, right? So the 7 Fs. And the more Fs you have, the more likely your gallbladder will blow up. Hormonal imbalances, infertility and sex drive disturbances, uterine fibroids, fatigue, and difficulty losing weight. So brain-body connection is where we get to next. Only 10% of your nervous system does things that you can feel and move and control consciously. 90% of it is autonomic or automatic. Who's heard of left arm pain and heart attack? Same nerve, same thing, right? So the nervous system's hooked up all the way down. Your spine is your suit of armor. In 1981, Roger Sperry won the Nobel Prize for Health. Who's heard the old saying, if you don't move it, you lose it? If you don't use it, you lose it. Right? So the other thing that's attributed to that is Roger Sperry's Nobel Prize winning research was that 90% of the stimulation and nutrition to your brain comes from movement of your spine. Move it or lose it. So you knew the saying, but you didn't know about the Nobel Prize winning research. We talked about 2 Nobel Prizes already, Hans Sayles and Roger Sperry. Look at us go. Right, now we're going to talk about subluxation. Sub means less, lux means light or energy intensity, and ation means process. Let's make it really simple. If the bone doesn't move, the nerve can't talk. Right? If the bone doesn't move, we're going to call that nociception, and we have negative feedback to the brain, and the nerve doesn't talk coherently with the rest of the body. Now, looking at this chart, this side here is our somatic nervous system. Over this side, this is our autonomic or automatic nervous system. And all of the nerves are hooked up on the way down. This one here is called a Merrick chart. So this is the symptom that we trace via the organ, via the nerve back to the spine. Now, this is a general viewpoint, right? It's not a to B connection link because multiple nerves supply the different things. However, it will allow us to look at a certain area of your spine to look for interference that may be causing those problems. So there are 3 reasons why our health is declining while we spend more and more on health. Number 1 is personal responsibility. You're all adults, but none of you are responsible. Because we believe in the central dogma of health, which is that you are half mum, half dad, and everything else is bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes, which is actually bullshit. So if it's bad luck, you're a victim. If it's bad germs, you're a victim. If it's bad genes, you're a victim. So let's go with it's bad luck. Well, if you're got the same genes as everyone else, and if you're the same age as these other 100 women, then it's not actually bad luck. It's your consistent choices with time that will determine the result. Part number 2, right? Bad germs. Well, the germs are all around us all the time. Do you actually get sick or do you lose health? You lose health, right? Because you already had it in the first place, right? And so basically this tells us that we've been doing the wrong things for too long, right? And then bad genes. We already covered that one off, but we know that humans as a species has 99.9% the same genetics. There's no 2 different humans from any race in the human race that can't breed and then their children be able to have children again, right? This is not the same in dogs. This is not the same in, for example, a horse and a donkey, they have a mule, right? It's not the same in many other animal species. Humans are so similar. And then number 2 is the wrong definition of health. The World Health Organization defines health as complete physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being, not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. But they did a study where they surveyed 426,923 Australians, and 90% of them believe that if you look good and if you feel good, you're healthy. But what we're going to do is we've actually got Kylie's credit card details. She doesn't know this. And we're going to send you out those details so you can go down the pub tonight, right? And you can all go nuts, all on Kylie. Tomorrow morning, will you look good? Will you feel good? The answer is no, you won't. So see how you feel is a very shallow view of health. And then the third reason we're in a health crisis, ladies, is you're guilty. Procrastination. Because you're not doing the things that you know that you could do. You're sitting there listening to me thinking, this sounds a lot like me. But you won't necessarily take action because you're putting everyone else first. So, how to test your nervous system for dysfunction: range of motion, palpation, posture scans, neurological testing, and x-rays. How do chiropractors help? We find the problems that are underlying. We support your nervous systems with adjustments that are specific to you to allow your brain to speak with your body and your body back to your brain coherently. We give you exercises and advice to improve your posture, your brain-body communications, and the habits that create the stressors that create the subluxation in the first place. Chiropractic Life has over 50 practices, Australia and New Zealand wide. And if you would like to get yourself and your family checked, we would love to check you, and it will cost you $100 instead of 165. What we do is we do a full and thorough history. We do a proper examination with chiropractic, orthopedic, neurological testing. We'll do posture photos, and if clinically indicated, we'll take some x-rays, because to see is to know, to not see is to guess, and we don't want to guess with your health. If you have children who you want to bring along as well, if you have an initial consult and you pay, we would love to see them for their first appointment for free, because we truly believe in building healthy families and communities. As is the twig, so grows the tree. So the last ask I have for you is, if you're listening to this workshop and if you have a community organization, a sporting group, a business, or even if you want me to come and speak at family dinner, if you cooked for me and you have enough people at family dinner, I'll come speak for you. As long as you feed me, we're all sweet. Yeah, Kylie will hook it all up. Right. We truly believe that education is the key to health. That's why we do these workshops every month. And we would love you to come along every month, and learn more about health. So here's some references from the things we spoke about today. Wayne Todd has an amazing book called The SD Protocol, Achieve a Greater Health and Wellbeing. There's also a lecture on YouTube that goes for an hour and 36 minutes. Yeah, you skip the first 16 minutes. That's really good as well. There's the effective chiropractic care on heart rate variability. Heart rate variability is how, we're able to measure your autonomic nervous system function. And then the effective chiropractic care on blood pressure. Get your nervous system checked. Lastly, I just want to thank you all very much. Actually, I should actually refer you to this. We've got some, for everyone who signed up tonight, we've got some takeaways. We'll be able to send you out an email, and I'll send this to Kylie so she can whiz it out to you guys with a bunch of takeaways. And one of them is actually Wayne Todd's daughter's new book, Anthea. It's really good. You can actually download it for free on Spotify at the moment. So anyway, I'd just like to thank you all for tuning in tonight. I hope you got a lot out of that. If you have any questions, shoot them through and we'll get you out some more information. Thanks all so much. Have an amazing night.